Hey everybody, welcome to my channel. If you're new, welcome. If you're coming back, welcome back. Have you had situations where your kids wake up in the middle of the night screaming? I had a situation yesterday where the lady told me, she said her son, who's young, I don't even know how old he is, but he's only a year or two old. Anyway, he wakes up in the morning and his mom said, why do you keep waking up so early? And he said, well, because the monster wakes me up. If you have, excuse me, if you have situations like that, I can help you. I'm Pam, and I call myself basically a spiritual fireman because that's what I deal with a lot. There are numerous situations where kids don't want to sleep in their bedrooms because they're scared. Growing up, were you one of those kids that thought there was a monster under your bed or in your closet, or and your parents told you, no, it's just your imagination, go back to sleep, it's all okay? But you knew, as a kid, you don't make this stuff up. Well, your kids aren't making it up either. So the situation yesterday, it was bigger than just a monster. There were I had been to this house a couple times to do healings and clearings and stuff like that, and the negative energies kept coming back. And this woman, she went to protect her daughter with angels one day, and her daughter looked at her with this look on her face and said, no. And the lady said, you need to leave. And it was like, no. And she said, it was so demonic. She said, it was scary, Pam. And I said, and of course, I get this all the time. So anyway, I cleared her daughter, and things kept happening. And then I tested, and she actually had a portal in her house that was allowing these energies, the negative energies, to come through. So I went yesterday to close the portal. So what I'm telling you is, it's not always a portal. It's not something that you need to be scared of, you need to be ashamed of. Nothing. It happens all the time to all kinds of people. I remember my daughter told me one time, and I don't know where the energy came from, but there were a couple things. We had gone to a, where was it? Anyway, somewhere in Florida. The name just went out of my head. We did a ghost tour, and we went to a jail, and I'm still trying to remember the name of it. But anyway, and when we went through this jail, we did the tour, and my daughter, not knowing what she was saying or whatever, we get on the bus, and the bus driver says, basically whatever energies are here need to stay here. And my daughter, being the smart ass that she is, she said, oh no, you can come with me. And it wasn't, and I just looked at her like, are you crazy? And this was before I knew all of what I know now. Okay, so I don't know, 6, 8 months, maybe a year later, she tells me, she's like, Mom, I hear growling from my closet. Like something's in my closet growling. And I was like, oh my God. So anyway, now whether it was that, she also had an energy, a woman that had died. I don't remember if it was in her apartment or in a adjoining, I think it was in her apartment. Some lady had passed away, and her energy was still in this apartment, because my daughter told me, she's like, Mom, I'll lay my keys down, and the next thing I know, they're moved. Or they'll turn up some in another room. or I'll lose something and then it just magically appears. So not all energies are bad. Some of them are just there. They're mischievous. I've had other people that pass and they feel attached, or they're scared to go to the other side for whatever reason. They're still here and they will do things. You know, I know my sister told me at one point, somebody, I won't go into details, but they had an energy in their house where things would get moved. Same thing, you know, they would put something, her husband would put down a tool or keys or whatever, and it would be moved. So you have those kinds of energies, which there's nothing wrong with them. They just need to be released from the earth plane and be sent to the fourth plane where the angels and the spirits are. So I do those kinds of things. And again, it's not a bad thing. They're just stuck here in this low frequency, this dimension of earth. So, but then you also have the negative entities that come for many, many reasons. It could be, you could have had a trauma in your life. You could have something that you're working through. I mean, all the clearing work that I've done on myself, the years of clearing work, there was one that just, it reared its ugly head just, I guess, last month. I didn't even know it was there. But it took what I do to clear it. But it was there to let me know that I had a limiting belief around something to do with money. And I just see this entity come out from behind a visual wall or virtual wall. And I was like, makes sense. So I did my thing and I released it and sent it on its way. And now things are much better. So, and then my husband had a situation. So Indians are very not from India, but Native American Indians are very spiritual. And I've been to places where it's Indian burial grounds and where Indians used to have their tribes. They used to live there. And a lot of times their energy is still there. And I know when I met my husband, he told me, he said, because obviously I told him what I did. And because he can sense, he can pick up things that I don't, he has different gifts than I do. And he told me, he said, I have restless nights. I know I just feel like there's somebody staring at me all night long. And I just feel like there's somebody there in my room. So we did a session and it was the coolest thing. And I don't think he'll care that I tell you, but if he does, I'm sorry. Because it was cool as crap. He saw, and he was in the session, he said he saw these eyes just pop in front of him. And it wasn't a scary thing at all. He just saw these eyes. And they were kind, but they were curious. And I talked him through it. And what it was an Indian spirit, an Indian that was there, because his home and all these other homes had been built on their sacred ground. And they didn't know why. They just knew that their ground was being disrupted. So I had my husband talk to this energy and let it know why he was there, what his intention was, and to send this energy love and peace and all of those kinds of things. And this energy it was like it lightened. And then I sent it away. And he said after that, he never had another problem until the next person moved in. But the next person that moved in, brought his own energy. I mean, he had his own baggage that he was dealing with. But it's the same thing. You know, sometimes these energies, it's like, I don't know. My husband has, because we live on a battlefield, I live in Appomattox, where the North and the South signed the peace treaty. You know, I'm not good with history, so I can't remember if Grant surrendered to Lee or Lee surrendered to Grant, and it really doesn't matter. The fact is, the battle was ended here, like within a mile of my house is where the surrender happened. And if you're laughing at me, whatever. History is not my thing. So anyway, my husband would see soldiers walking around my house. Now, he hasn't seen them for a while because they've moved on for other purposes that we are going to be experiencing here shortly. So anyway, but he would see them and they're just wandering around, because when you are killed instantly, like in the movie Ghost, when Patrick Swayze was killed, like instant, he didn't know he was dead. And that's what happens. These spirits are walking around looking at you like, why can't you hear me? I'm standing right here. And, you know, so those are they're harmless, but they need to be released. And that's what I do, is I release them so they can go on to where they're supposed to be, so they can evolve. And, you know, I've had situations where people have called me and they'll say their child wakes up in the middle of the night screaming. And it's like, they'll go in there, they don't see anything. But I mean, like a child too small to be able to talk. But every time they look at the doorway, they start crying because there's a negative energy in that door. The child sees it. Children sense this. Children can see these things that we don't. And, you know, I remember my daughter telling me that my granddaughter, she's like, Mom, it's the cutest thing. She'll sit in the playpen and it's like she's talking to somebody, and her bunny is the only thing or whatever it was, is the only thing that's there. And I told her, I said, well, it makes sense because she probably is seeing, and of course my daughter understands this stuff to a point, but so I went to release the energies, and it wasn't anything bad. It was just because the house was like really old, you know, it was just energies that came to play with my granddaughter. You know, so I lovingly sent them away, which I lovingly send everything away because everything's here for a reason. So, and it was the sweetest thing. Oh my gosh, it almost broke my heart because as I saw them leaving, they were like looking back and they were waving goodbye to my granddaughter. It almost brought tears to my eyes because they were sweet energies. They were playing with my granddaughter. They weren't here to harm her, but they needed to be released so they could go continue evolving. You know, now sometimes, you know, you have those kinds of things, but you also have angels around you all the time. You have your ancestors, your guides. They're always around you. And there's nothing wrong with that. They're here to help you through this life. But like I said, the dealing with the negative stuff, people don't want to hear about it. People don't want to think about it. People have been told, oh, well, that's just your imagination. You know, my neighbor, when I was married to my last husband, my neighbor, the little boy, he would have night terrors. Same thing. You know, so if your child is like waking, and a friend of mine, her daughter when she was little, she would wake up in the middle of the night screaming. Now, her husband had serious issues, like he was possessed. So this little girl would wake up in the middle of the night screaming, And, my friend would go in there, she wouldn't see anything, but the next morning, her daughter would have like bite marks on her legs or bruises or whatever. That stuff's got to go away. It happens. I didn't make the rule book. I just follow the rules. But those were there because of her husband. It had nothing to do with the little girl. So I released the energies and sent them on their way. So then all of that stopped, and especially once they moved out, away from him because she left him. But yeah. And then everything stopped. Her daughter her middle child, while they were there, developed Tourette's. She would hit herself. She would be screaming, like profanity and stuff like that. And that's just not the way this child was. But once they left him, all of that stopped. I have so many stories I can tell you. It's crazy. But this stuff is out there. It's everywhere. The house I went to yesterday, I cleared the portal. And she told me, she said, because I've checked her yard, and I told her, I said, your yard is clear. And she said, but I feel things like in the woods. So I go back out and I check again, and I told her, it's your neighbor's house, because there's like woods between her and her neighbor. And I said, it's your neighbor's house. It's not yours. And I said, but I can't clear his house without his yard without their permission. So I said, you're okay. It's the energy's over there. Why it's there? I don't know. I mean, she said there's Indians there too, but, or they were, and this isn't knocking Indians. I mean, I love them. I love their spirit. I think we should be more like that, because they were tapped into the earth and the spirits of the wind and the water and every air, and well, wind is air. I mean, they were tapped into all the spirits, and they lived harmoniously with the earth. And we've gotten away from that. So anyway, that's a whole nother topic. I'm not going down that rabbit hole today. But I just wanted you to know that these things do exist on many different levels. You have everything from angels and God and Jesus and Buddha to the bad stuff. It's not bad, it's just less love. There is no love there. Where you've got love and light with Jesus and God and Buddha and Muhammad and all these enlightened beings, the dark side doesn't have love. It's a lack of love. But they're here for a reason. Most of them are here because it's trying to get your attention to release whatever it is that attracted it, so you can be free. It's attached to a limiting belief or attached to a fear or a trauma. Sometimes it's, if you moved into a house, sometimes the people there before you, they had bad energy. If there was a bunch of fighting, or if you have a bunch of fighting and tension in your house, that's low. It's a low frequency. It's a low vibration. You're attracting these low vibrational beings. So what I do with my sessions, I work on a lot of different levels, but when we release whatever the tension is, I can release the energies, and then it raises your vibration, so you're not attracting the energies anymore. And if one shows up, it's because you've got something else to release. It's like I said, it's not a bad thing. It just is. So if your kids are waking up, screaming, they won't sleep through the night, they don't want to sleep in their bedroom, they're afraid, they tell you there's monsters in the closet or under their bed or whatever, believe them. Because that's what they see. And these dark energies, they're not pretty. The one that came out the other day for me was not pretty. It wasn't scary to me because of what I do. I know this. But, I released it. But it was there for a reason. So anyway, like I said, whatever you've got going on, reach out to me. That's what I do. You won't. There's not a whole lot of people that do what I do. There really isn't. And like the lady that I did the portal for, she had spent tons of money on sage and crystals, and I'm not saying that doesn't have a purpose, but when you're dealing with what she had going on, sage isn't going to touch it. Crystals isn't going to touch it. It's not going to get rid of it. It might keep it off of you, but it's not going to get rid of the energy. So anyway, I hope you guys have a great day. I hope this makes sense. I will, in the class that I'm going to launch in May, the first part of May, I'll cover some of this. So if you have questions, we'll dive a little bit deeper. I'll probably do some clearings in that class as well. So it's going to be fun. It's going to be exciting. So anyway, stay posted. Have an amazing day. I'm sending you guys love and light, and this is not at all to scare you. It's just to because you don't know what you don't know. It's to make you aware that it's there, and I'm here to help you. So have an amazing day, and we will talk soon.